Thank you and good morning again. Everybody filter back in here. You don't want to miss this, for sure. We're going to talk a little bit about kind of the old KX, a little bit about the new KX, a little bit about the future KX, because I think it's one of the most exciting stories I've been involved with for a long time, and I've been doing trading operations for the better part of 20 plus years. And been at KX about 3.5. It's a completely different company than it was 3.5 years ago. The good part about it is a lot of people haven't noticed. The bad part about it is a lot of people haven't noticed. So we're going to introduce you to a few concepts today. Number one, it's kind of like if you look at our pedigree of where we've come from, you heard a lot about the KX history and how many years we've been at this and all the unique technology we've got that drove us to, I think, a very unique position in the capital markets. And I love this slide because of all the logos up there, each one of them represents a success story, and each one of them represents an interesting story, and each one of them represents a differentiated story and a story of winning in the marketplace. What I also love about this slide is I could do this presentation 12 times and not use the same logos. So think about that. Like, we're a really interesting, well-kept secret on Wall Street. Now, a lot of you guys know it. Either you're looking at KX for the first time, or you're a well-established KX customer. Some people in this room I've known for 20 years, and they've been using KX for 20 years. It's really kind of phenomenally amazing in a lot of ways. So I'm not going to really go into all of the differentiated technology, because you'll see that in the demo stations, you'll hear about that in the workshops. I want to talk philosophically what this kind of means. If we've got this unique position in Wall Street where we've been driving unique financial analysis, with historical data and intraday data and real-time data, and allowing people to come to different conclusions and win in their respective spaces in the trading wars, that's pretty unique. And if you look at the longevity and how long we've been doing it, with a product set that's evolved to fit into a modern data ecosystem, I think that's also kind of amazing. Right? We're not just the KX of old, but we're the KX of old who's migrated, evolved to be something that you need to take on the new data challenges, which will include AI, and we'll talk a little bit about that and what it means. But if I look at some of the logos up here, right now, JP Morgan Chase is a great example. We started a cloud journey with them 3 years ago. By the way, our partnerships, when we talk about AWS and we talk about GCP and we talk about Microsoft and Azure, and we talk about NVIDIA and we talk about Dell, we talk about the other partnerships, we didn't have any of these things 4 years ago. So you look at the evolution of KX as a company, it's kind of amazing, because it's like, why would NVIDIA pay a lot of attention to us? Because they know we do a couple of things that they think everybody on Wall Street's going to need in the coming years, which is speed and scalability. So those are some of the things that are holding back the generative AI story. And we complete one of the missing pieces of that. So when we kind of look at the evolution of where we're going, so we started with JP Morgan Chase, and they said, Jamie Dimon is really pushing us to move to the cloud. And in partnership with AWS, we said, let's start to take you to the cloud. And so I can tell you a story about how that evolved. So in 6 months, JP Morgan Chase moved a petabyte level workload to the cloud, and no one at JP Morgan Chase noticed. And it took us 4 months. The normal cloud migration project at JP Morgan Chase was 20. At the time, 20 months to move a workload to the cloud. We did it in 4, and the guy's greatest quote to me was, 1 month of that was moving, and 3 months of that was testing. So it's really kind of a phenomenal story when you look at, I think Ashok said, we'd leave no one behind. Versions of KX from the past work into the future. And so I think as part of that evolutionary journey that we've been on, there's so many great stories up there. And as I tell every new client that's considering us, I said, take a look at the clients that already did your research for you. Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, Citadel, Millennium Partners, Brevin Howard, Balyasny, Citigroup, Bank of America, Barclays, HSBC, JP Morgan Chase, IEX. The list kind of goes on and on and on and on. Those guys have done their work, and I can tell you that a lot of the logos that I talked about, not only this slide, but the other dozen logo slides I could do as part of a presentation without ever repeating myself. I think it's phenomenal when they look at how their journeys have evolved with us, right? So when we look at the success they've had over long periods of time, I remember they've all voted with their checkbooks on the new modern technology. So a lot of these firms have already upgraded to the evolution that is called KX Insights, and they've taken a look at the modern KX and said, you know what, I could depend upon you to run my business for the next 10 or 15 or 20 years like I've done before. I think that's a phenomenal testament to things. And I'll point out Morgan Stanley as an example. Morgan Stanley has upgraded to our Insights product. And when we were kind of negotiating with them, you don't really negotiate with Morgan Stanley, they kind of tell you what they're going to do, so that's great in that sense. But they looked at it and said they've been using the product continually for 18 years as their analytics stack for complex analytics. They signed a new 5-year agreement, and that'll bring them to 23 years without having to refresh their tech stack. So if you're thinking about longevity, and you're thinking about speed and scale, and you're thinking about creating differentiation in a modern trading environment, you got to take into consideration some of these stories, because how would you like to be part of an organization that didn't have to refresh a tech stack for over 20 years? It's unheard of. But yet, for us, it's kind of commonplace. And that's why we've evolved to be a really safe, interesting company as you get ready for the next tranche of what you're going to have to do in the marketplace, which is, I really think that AI in general, generative AI combined with AI and structured data, which you've all been doing for many years, is going to change the frontier of how we look at things. Frontiers involve a lot of pioneers, right? And pioneers usually get shot because there's a lot of things going on. And I know we talk to a lot of front office people about AI, and they're like, AI is a great productivity tool for the back office, but we're really not sure what it means in the front office yet. And that's kind of the middle ground that Ashok was talking about this morning, where we've created an ability to do generative AI-like things to structure data and give you completely different views of the marketplace you've had. So it's a stepping stone rather than an evolution, right? It's a stepping stone. It gets you there slowly. It allows you to look at your CEO and say, we're doing things in AI that are really interesting without having to do the big leap into generative AI, which, I think people are questioning the regulations, what's going to happen, traceability, explainability, everything that needs to take place to make that AI truly a productive tool for front office trading operations. So we think KX happens to be the safest bet on Wall Street to do those types of things, merely because we rely on our past customers, and our history. So I also want to say that KX has the best product management in the industry. Now, for those product guys in the audience, don't get big heads, right, if you're KX. What I mean is our customers. When we've got the type of logo base that we have, we can go to these guys and they give us the best advice. So when we're wondering what's going on in AI, we go have conversations with these guys and they tell us what they're thinking, which forms our thinking, which forms our product strategy, which forms our development strategy and our engineering strategy. So we're designing the products that the biggest brains on Wall Street are telling us are the ones they need for now and in the future. And I think that's a pretty safe bet. So when you look at us, think about KX as this consortium of knowledge collected across all of the largest financial institutions on the globe, the most prestigious ones, the ones that have won trade wars for years, and think about us as a big part of what they're doing, and they're a big part of what we're doing because they inform what we should do for our future. So they're the ones that came back and said, hey, you know what? Q's great. We really need an alternative so we can let our Python developers and our SQL developers get the power, because it's great to have these Q guys, and Q, you can do amazing things, and I know everybody that's a Q head in the room will sit back and they know that already. Would it surprise you to sit back and say, for these organizations, PyKX has changed the game, because there's now, by a huge factor, many more Python developers utilizing KDB databases than there are Q developers. And I think that's great. It's the democratization of KX. It's opening up those valuable time series data sets to people who wouldn't have access to it before, right? And so I can tell you, even from like JP Morgan Chase's standpoint, they used to talk to us about keeping us in a small, well-controlled box because we were so integral to their trading operations. They couldn't let anybody else get at these valuable data sets. Now, with the cloud, the ability to replicate onto hierarchical storage on the cloud relatively cheaply, cloud journeys made easier by the cloud partners and KX, they sit back and they say, somebody wants a data set now? We can spin it up in the cloud, they can utilize it. They're getting much better results from a business results standpoint because they can now have access to these data sets by people that never had it before. And an interesting phenomenon, because we've had PyKX out in the marketplace now for about 3 years, I've noticed an interesting phenomenon that we look at the early adopters of that. What they're doing is learning Q as functions. They think they're extensions of Python. And of course, really, everyone that knows PyKX, it's really Q under the covers anyways. So we've had a lot of quotes like, wow, my Python libraries now rock. Well, I wonder why, right? You were used to running Python queries, and now you're running, technically speaking, Q queries, but with your Python libraries. I think it's one of the most amazing engineering feats that a company's pulled off in a long time. Completely transparently, and was mentioned today, PyKX 3.0 will include streaming now. So imagine streaming Python. You didn't have these capabilities before. So I think from an innovative standpoint and an innovation standpoint, we're kind of leading the industry, and we're doing it not because we're the smartest company on the planet. It's because we have the smartest customers on the planet who drive our direction, who drive our evolution, who drive our innovation. So they're giving us the best ideas, and we just have to execute on them. And I think we're doing a pretty good job of that at this point in time. So when you look at the things that have put KX in this unique position, I look at it and kind of sit back and say, well, yeah, it's been the low latency stuff. It's been unified data analysis. We've been doing it a long time, so you got longevity. But I think when you really begin to layer in all the things that differentiate KX and apply that to what you're going to need in the future, like when you look at the things that might hold back generative AI, because we know we're talking to the best hedge funds in the world, we're talking to the biggest banks in the world, we're talking to the biggest asset managers in the world, and they're telling us what's holding them back. It's when they look at the combination of structured and unstructured data, it's slow when you start to apply scale. So when you look at scale, that's one of the things that holds people back. So they're wondering, like, when are all these startup vector databases going to catch up and be able to give us the scale and performance we need to be serious about this? And that's a cue for us. Like, KDB is a vector database natively. We've opened up those vectors a couple years ago. Now KDB.ai, because of the customer input we're getting, is rapidly evolving as one of the most high-performance, scalable databases for structured and unstructured data on the planet. And that puts us in a unique position of being able to drive innovation not only for ourselves, but come back to the customer base and say, we're going to give you the speed and scale that you've come to know us for, but we're going to give it to you on both structured and unstructured data. As a matter of fact, any type of data that you've got. You've already heard that, from like the guys at BTIG, right? Come back and say, it's really any kind of data you can put in this. So I think I want you guys to all explore and get to know kind of the new KX on our evolutionary journey. Now, you know, we separated from First Derivatives, which is we sold that company off. That was publicly announced. What that did was put KX as a public-facing company with a big slug of operating cash that came out of that sale, with all of this innovation driving us, with the customer base serving as our product management team that gives us the best advice on the planet. So when we look at that, I want you to start to think about some other things. You know, what holds people back right now? The reason why, you know, we talk to Supermicro, we talk to Dell, we talk to NVIDIA, is kind of like compute efficiency, compute horsepower, space in the data center, space in the cloud, cloud compute units, right? It's all very, could be very expensive, right? They're not going to allow us to build the data centers of the future because of power consumption, water consumption, everything else like that. So a lot of places are sitting back saying, you can't build a data center in my backyard anymore, right? What are we going to have to do? We're going to have to make sure we have the compute efficiency available to us by driving technological innovation. KX has always been on the forefront of compute efficiency. Think about all the little power of KDB packed into the ability to run it in a very small environment. That's why we can do things what we're doing with aerospace and defense in the stealth F-35, because we can run compute on a little chip in the plane. We can do the same thing when you put them together at large scale. So partnerships that we've got with NVIDIA will drive that. Partnerships we have with Dell will drive that. And it's interesting because you know, when I was talking to a relatively new logo, and they were talking about, you know, we were talking about compute efficiency and the efficiency of KDB and the different things you could do, and he goes, well, I'm in the cloud. I have infinite compute units I can throw at that problem. I'm like, really? I didn't realize that Google and AWS and Microsoft were giving away compute units, because eventually you have to pay for it, right? You have to write them a check for the compute units. So we can do what others can do in a fraction of the compute units, in a fraction of the power consumption. And I think that's going to become more important over the next 5 years than it was over the last 5 years. So think about what you have to accomplish in terms of the volume of data, the velocity of data, and how that data is going to get configured. Whether you're running it in a data center or whether you're running it on a cloud, you're going to need to have efficiency to do that. You're going to need to be energy efficient. You're going to need to think about these things. You're going to need compute unit efficiency. So we can deliver all of the other benefits we already talked about, along with that scalability, compute efficiency, energy efficiency, and reliability that KX has been known for the better part of 25 years. So we've really spent a tremendous amount of money modernizing the underpinnings so we can fit into a modern data ecosystem. We can excel in that modern data ecosystem. We can lead people down the journey where you're combining structured and unstructured data for the benefit of your trading operations, so you can gain the same advantages that you've always had. So we think, you know, you heard about knowledge is power and the fastest and a lot of other concepts we talk about. These are not new for us. What we're doing is accelerating, and we're now having the same concepts that we've already been known for, but in an easy to consume, easy to deploy, democratized version of KX that I think is going to be, you know, puts us in the forefront of being the safest bet on Wall Street. Because if you look at who's telling us what to do, how they're telling us they want us to do it, and then the fact that we are now a functional standalone software company rather than a services company and software company, kind of dual personality, right? We've been very focused for the last 3.5, 4 years on developing a modern data ecosystem to go along with our customers' evolving needs. I think we've been pretty successful at doing that without giving up the scale and performance that you've known us for. So all the great stuff that we had in the past, we've now combined with an easier to deploy, easier to use, more democratized version of KDB that can be applied to these new modern data problems, which are going to be massive, right? When you look at the data sets that are involved for true generative AI work, in a front office trading operation, those are big data sets with lots of complex calculations, algorithms that go into that. We want to be the differentiating technology that you all use as the underpinnings of your business to continue to differentiate, to continue to drive change, to continue to drive profits and success. And so I think, you know, if you look at what our DNA is, we kind of sum it up like this. It's going to be all your data. We don't care what kind of data it is, whether it's structured data, whether it's unstructured data. We've always been really good at getting that to the right people at the right time so they can do something with it. So exactly when you need all that data for the problem set you're trying to solve, that's what we're driving towards. And in the most effective way. Compute unit efficiency, energy efficiency, the ability to get data where you want, the ability to display it. You know, from a hidden gem in our portfolio is KX dashboards. By the way, terrible name, right? Because it makes you think of Power BI or something like that. These are real-time interactive workstations that you can display data that combines historical and real-time streaming data in one view where a human can consume what's happening in a marketplace and begin to make adjustments that might be necessary to win with your trading strategies. So if I look at the things that you can continue to count on KX for, it's going to be speed, both on your structured and unstructured data, the scale that you've known us for, because the scale is not going to get smaller, which is why NVIDIA is going crazy right now, right? Everyone's worried about how am I going to be able to perform computational efficiency across these massive data sets, which are going to be the fuel for differentiation over the next, you know, 1 to 5 or 6 years, right? There's a data revolution going on again. And, you know, it's driven by AI and the things that we can do with that, right? So our final thought on that is you've got to do that with accuracy, right? We've always been known for precise accuracy of time series data. We want to be known for precise accuracy of AI-generated data. So reduce your hallucinations, get more accurate data sets, and that's going to drive everybody's total cost of ownership if I include compute efficiency, energy efficiency, the efficiency to, you know, compress your data sets, do things that we've been known for years. The total cost of ownership, we think, is far superior to anything else you're going to be looking at in the marketplace. So please kind of get to know the new KX, because there's a lot of really interesting innovation happening at the speed of thought within our business, driven by the biggest and brightest minds on Wall Street, which put us in a unique position, you know, putting all the data together, end-to-end scalability across these new frontiers that you're going to need to address to be the difference makers that you have been for years. Proven risk mitigation. When I say risk mitigation, I don't mean risk in the classic sense, but I mean like we're a safe company to do business with. If you add up all of the little startups who claim they compete or do what KX does, our revenue as one company is more than all of their revenues combined. So again, I go back to the premise of I'm the safest bet on Wall Street. I have the best product management, which is you all. I have the best engineering capabilities because now we've been given a really good opportunity with the sale of First Derivatives to stand out as a software company that has huge capitalization underneath it. So we're not going to need to borrow money or go to private equity or anything. We have it all wrapped up into one convenient company. So that's risk mitigation, I believe. And when we put that, you know, all together, it's a great step. We've got the ability to do AI-like features, similarity search, nearest neighbor, a lot of things on your existing structured data set without you having to do any data movement or any data transformation. So think about that. This temporal IQ concept that we talk about is something that you can get today. You can apply it to your structured data sets and you can begin to look at markets differently. And I think that's kind of an amazing stepping stone to get ready for generative AI. So we realize in many cases, you know, the front office trading operations are a little resistant. We think we're your evolutionary path to get to generative AI from the use of structured data, unstructured data, different views of that, all driven by the best and brightest minds in the marketplace, which is you telling us what to do. So With that, I'm going to invite Owen Roach, who heads our Global Customer Service and Technical Account Management Group, up to give you a little bit more insight about how we're differentiating things for you.
Thanks, Mark. Good morning, everyone. So a little bit of background for me. I've been with KX for almost 15 years now. So I've seen a lot of change over that period of time. And I've really had a front row seat in the evolution that we've been going through as a software company. And I've seen a lot of our customer journeys as well. So seeing how they're getting value from our software, and really learning from that and helping us improve how we service those customers. What I want to dig a little bit deeper on today is how we're enabling those customers, and what we're doing to really help them be more successful, help them achieve the business outcomes that they're looking for. So we'll start with removing friction. So really, ultimately what we want is to make it as easy as possible for our customers to get to where they need to be. So supporting them in achieving those business outcomes with minimal effort. So what's the friction they're typically coming up against, and how can we make things easier? So we look at democratized access. So this is something that we've discussed a bit already today, and with good reason we've talked a bit about PyKX. That's been a huge success for us, both for new customers who in many cases don't have any real experience with KDB Plus or Q. So how do they get to value quickly? How are they able to access and analyze the data without having that expertise? So PyKX is really essential for them to be able to do that, and we're seeing great success there. But with existing customers, PyKX has grown massively as well. And a lot of these customers have been around for a long time. They're very experienced KDB and Q people, and they've built out very sophisticated systems with that technology. But by leveraging PyKX, they can open up that user base much more, and really all of the fantastic things that they've built over the years give access to that to a much wider range of people. Similar story with SQL and pgwire. So we do have QSQL, which is a very elegant query language that many of our customers know and love. But we do have people who are accustomed to ANSI SQL, and that's what they want to use. They also have some tools that they are more accustomed to. It might be Power BI, Tableau, things like that. So by supporting ANSI SQL and supporting the pgwire protocol, we're able to again expose the data and analytics that have been built to those users without them even knowing that it's, as far as they know, it could be a Postgres database. So they're able to leverage all of that power of KDB Plus without even knowing that that's what's under the hood. Our Q developers obviously are still very important, so VS Code plugins we continue to optimize and take feedback on. So allowing those Q developers to use, a lot of them really like VS Code and really like using that development environment. So being able to support them and give them the right tools that they need to be more efficient is very important. Dashboards, another window into the data and is the analytics. We've also integrated PyKX and SQL in here as well. So with the dashboards tool, you can write Q, you can call existing Q analytics, and you can also write SQL and Python directly within that tool, visualize that data. So we're seeing a lot of success there as well with customers who are able to roll out that to their end users. They're able to easily access the data, explore it, and visualize it however they want. We've had a lot of feedback from customers, particularly those a bit more sophisticated with KDB Plus, around how we can integrate with open file formats, Parquet, for example, and interoperability in general being a big topic for our customers. So we're doing a lot of work in that area to see how we can better integrate with other technologies, recognizing that the core use cases that KDB Plus is used for are still critical, but there's a wider ecosystem that we need to integrate with. So doing that as seamlessly as possible is very important, so we continue to optimize what we're doing there. In terms of capital markets specifically, we've built a number of industry accelerators, and we continue to build on this. So the number one challenge that a new customer has when they license KX is, we've shown them the power of the technology, they understand what it's capable of, but without data, they can't really do anything. So a big challenge is, how do we get the data in? So that requires expertise in the data, We got to build our loaders, we got to build our feed handlers, we got to define our data model, got to do a lot of work to get to a point where it's actually available to end users to actually start getting value from that data. So again, looking to simplify that and to remove the complexity there that customers are experiencing. So feed handlers out of the box, built and maintained by KX, is something that's of a lot of value. We continue to increase our coverage there in terms of market data providers. We've built some other adapters as well around Kafka, or Fix, and others to really make onboarding data much more efficient and much easier than it has been historically. An extension of that then, being able to actually define out-of-the-box schemas for different data sources and for different asset classes, and common analytics that are used within those. So particularly with capital markets, we look at the repeatable use cases. What are the typical operations that people want to do on that data, whether it's TCA, whether it's quant research, some of the real-time ingest and analytics that they want to run. So again, looking at those repeatable use cases, how can we provide out of the box what customers would in the past typically have had to build for themselves. Another very tight integration that we've done is with ICE, and we've actually got a session on that this afternoon. But ICE is a great partner of ours. We've worked very closely with them to build ingest pipelines, to build feed handlers for their real-time and historical data across multiple asset classes. Not only have we focused on the ingest aspect, but we've actually looked, particularly with equities and fixed income, we've looked at the use cases and what tools can we build on top of the data to get you to that starting point where you're further along the curve and you're able to get to that value quicker. So things like real-time order book views, dashboards that allow you to perform price discovery and exploration of bonds and fixed income. So we're building a lot of tools there with ICE. They know their data very well, we know the technology very well, so it's a great partnership, and it's something that we continue to explore and expand. So if you're interested in hearing more about that, we have a session this afternoon to go into more detail. And finally then, what we're doing in terms of supporting our community and enabling them to leverage the technology the best that they can. So we have a few things to highlight here. So the KX Academy, so this is our learning hub. This has been in place for a few years now, but it's gone through a revamp over the last few months. So this covers really all of our product suite, but we have updated courses on KDB Plus architecture. We've updated courses on Q. We also cover Insights, KDB AI, PyKX, some of our other tools as well. So a really great tool for our customers to get up to speed and to learn about our technology and to make them more productive. Steve mentioned that his team, and we have some other more recent customers as well, looking to learn Q and looking to get to a certain level where they want to actually be able to code in Q. So they're all leveraging that academy and seeing great results there. Free trials, so directly on the KX website, kx.com, you can download free trials for KDB Plus, for Insights, for KDB.ai, and then we've a support structure available to, as you're going through any eval with your free trial, we're available to help you through those. So we're trying to make that as seamless as possible. We want to get our software into the hands of new users and get them comfortable with the technology. So again, we've done a lot of work there to make that more seamless. Talked a bit about documentation earlier on, so we continue to improve on that. So code.kx.com, again, it's been around for a few years. It's gone through a bit of a revamp. So detailed documentation, walkthroughs, sample code, architecture overviews, all of that detail is available there across our range of products. And the KX community and Slack. So this is where we want to put our customers in touch with their peers. We're also directly engaged there as well for support. So if there's anything they want to discuss, if there's a problem they want to solve, or they want to discuss with their peers, giving them a forum to do that. Okay, so I just want to drill into looking at how our customers are benefiting from our technology. So just going to focus on one customer success story, just to kind of give an overview of the type of use cases that we're seeing and how they're seeing value there. So focus on one that kind of touches on three of our use cases that a lot of people will be familiar with. But this is particularly relevant because this customer just signed a global expansion because of the success that they've had. And I think, would resonate with this audience in terms of the type of use cases that come up as challenges and that we can solve. So the three areas really that they were focused on: real-time risk management. So in their EFX business, both in terms of how they manage positions and how they're pricing their customers, they didn't have a very efficient solution in place for that. It wasn't very scalable, it wasn't performant, and it didn't have the flexibility that they required. On the trade analytics side, they had a very inefficient system that was kind of batch report based for them to view how their trades are performing. So are they routing their orders the right way? Are they executing their trades optimally? It took them a long time to determine how those trades were performing, and if they wanted to drill into things in more detail, they'd again have to go off, get a report run, wait a number of hours for that to come through. So very inefficient and not really allowing them to act quickly to address any issues they might have with execution. The last area then was research. So quants looking to explore large volumes of historical data and to come up with trading strategies. Again, they had a scalability issue here. It was quite cumbersome how they could do that. It took a long time to get the access to the data they required. They'd run some logic and some analysis of that data. As soon as they wanted another data set, again, take a long time. They'd have to go request the data, wait a long time for it to come through. So a lot of inefficiencies, particularly around scale and performance, that we saw that we would be a really great fit to address all of these with one technology. So that's a solution, and we work with our client to build out a solution in all three areas. So in terms of risk management, so they now have a price engine built with KDB, and they have a position management engine built with KDB. So they're able to, based on their position, skew their prices accordingly, and based on the market data that they're observing, make sure that they're pricing competitively. They're able to proactively address any signals that come through regarding positions, when they should increase, when they should decrease positions, able to much more efficiently manage that to a much more sophisticated level. On the trade analysis side, they can now do that in real time. So we talked a lot earlier about the power of the joins with KDB, and trade analytics is really a perfect fit for that, right? So with TCA, pre and post trade analytics, so being able to join order and execution data with market data to look at how you're performing against various benchmarks and to look at how you can more optimally execute. So that's something they can now look at whatever trades they want to, whether it's intraday or whether it's historical. It's all at their fingertips. They don't need to wait for reports. They don't need to go anywhere else to get those run. They can explore that data interactively. And on the research side, so again, PyKX is being leveraged here, but also the power of KDB in terms of how it can query and aggregate large data volumes. And backtesting as well. So not only being able to do that analysis very efficiently and access the data directly that they need, integration with their Python libraries, but also being able to replay data, run their backtesting to validate that the new trading strategies they've come up with, how they would have performed historically, and give them more confidence to actually push those into production. So all of those came into kind of one core technology and one entire ecosystem around their EFX platform. And that is now the results that they've seen, that they've communicated to us. They've seen, with the help of KX, when this initiative started, they've seen that the trade volumes they're executing double, and they've seen their profits double as well. So really great results that they've seen from bringing KX in. And as I said, they've signed a global deal with us now. They're looking to expand into other asset classes as well. So just wanted to give a quick overview of that, just to show how we're enabling customers and how we're solving problems for them. Okay, so to talk a little bit, I guess, at some point I'm going to talk about AI, like everyone else. So really, I want to just frame this as what we're hearing from customers. So as Mark said, we rely very much on our customers. You know, we have some of the most sophisticated firms out there using our technology. So it's all about us providing the tools and the technology to make them successful. So what are we hearing from them in terms of AI? What are they exploring, and how are we laying a path before them so that they can actually achieve that with our technology? So reinforcement learning, machine learning, this is something that isn't that new for a lot of our customers. They've been doing it for a number of years. They've been leveraging KDB for this, particularly for where it's a large volume of data that's required. Again, our Python integration is very relevant in this area. But we're also seeing with more recent tools we've built around pattern matching, that's helping them, and it's simplifying, and it's kind of exposing this technology to a wider group to allow them to look at what's happened in the past and how can that dictate how I'm going to act on the latest data. So just a couple of examples of that, used quite a bit in quant research, looking for patterns. In risk management, so if I've seen this pattern before, what action did I take? So being able to get ahead of that when you see the pattern again. And we're seeing quite a nice use case around market abuse as well, where we have customers who are monitoring for specific behavior that might be an indicator of market abuse. But they need to then go and investigate that to determine was this valid or was it a false positive. So being able to look at when did I see this behavior in the past, how was that assessed, and feeding that in to make an automatic decision that can be reviewed is really accelerating the work that they're doing there, and it's removing a lot of inefficiency in terms of the time that people need to spend looking at false positives. Qualitative research, so we talked about this a little bit earlier in terms of bringing unstructured data into the research space. So traditionally, quants have been looking at public market data, internal order and execution data, reference data, very much on the structured data side of things. And then where they want to do analysis with unstructured data, and they might be reports, they might be earnings calls, they might be SEC filings, all of that's very manual. So they'd have to hire people who would go away and do research and present it back to a quant, or maybe the quant would do it themselves, but very time consuming and very difficult to analyze all of the data available. So what we're able to do now with GenAI, with the vector databases, by using KDB AI, is actually to generate vector embeddings from all of that unstructured data and allow the users to go through the workflow of performing similarity search, integration with LLMs, that full workflow, so they can actually ask questions of that unstructured data, overlay that with their structured data so they have the full picture of what's going on. So I think that's where we're seeing the main focus and the main value with unstructured data right now. It's difficult to make decisions with humans out of the loop and trading decisions at this point. There's an issue there in terms of compliance and in terms of concerns around hallucinations, but that's where research is a much better use case for it in its current state. Being able to explore the data and then interrogate that and look at the citations, look what's behind the data before making a decision. Last area to highlight then is anomaly detection. So again, we touched on our temporal IQ feature earlier. So this is taking the concept of similarity search to structured data. So looking for patterns and looking for anomalies in that structured data, and then making decisions based off that. So being able to do that in real time is a particular advantage. So look, it could be a price feed, it could be looking at customer orders, it could be looking at P&L, whatever you have in a time series, monitoring that for anomalies that you can then trigger actions based off. So we're seeing a lot of use cases there around data ops, data infrastructure. So how do you detect in real time that you might have a data issue? So it could be bad prints that you're receiving, it could be a latency problem, it could be something that was derived from the data that's off, that needs to be investigated. So we're seeing a lot of interest in that area. Also looking at general performance of orders, of P&L, not necessarily going with very strict rules in terms of when a threshold has been breached, but looking if there's an anomalous pattern here that needs to be investigated. So being able to detect that instantly. And then looking at client trading patterns as well. So that's a pretty common one, where if a client is suddenly maybe not trading you the way they typically trade, it could be an indicator of something that you want to get ahead of. So the proactive outreach to customers is a use case there as well. So again, a lot of customers are quite early in their stages of exploring this technology, but we're kind of laying the groundwork for them and providing the tools and the support to allow them to explore these use cases. So we have a lot of customers doing evals and doing a lot of tests with this technology to see what kind of results they're going to get. Okay, so to touch a little bit on, so the technical account management team that I run covers customer success as well. So our real goal is to make sure that our customers are maximizing their return on investment in KX technology, so giving them the support they need to achieve that. So every customer has an assigned technical account manager. Some of that team are here today. And And what they will do is work with you on health checks, so reviewing your environments, helping you identify where you might have bottlenecks, where you have potential for improvement. They'll help with architectural oversight if there's things you're going to implement and you need a little bit of guidance on, and general support in terms of, you might want to onboard a new data set, or you might have a new use case you want to implement and you might want some guidance on that. So we're very experienced experts, architects on the technical account management team who can help you with all of that. So that's something that we're, like I said, every customer has an assigned technical manager, and something that we've seen a lot of success with. So please reach out to us today if you want to engage with that team. Hopefully you've all been introduced to your technical account manager already. The next one is customer success plans. So shout out to Stephanie Lubiak. I'm not sure if she's in the room right now. But Steph is responsible for customer success for the Americas. So a lot of you will have interacted with her before. But a big part of what we're doing with customer success is trying to get a better understanding of our customers' goals and objectives so that we can be aligned on the outcomes that you're looking for and how we can best support you in achieving those outcomes. So what we've put together is, for customers who are new customers or customers who are building out new use cases or have new projects with our technology, working with a customer on a customer success plan that defines what are your goals and objectives, what's the timeline you're looking at, what are the milestones that are important to you, and we're making sure we're engaged, advising and supporting to make sure that you're succeeding in those objectives. Business reviews is something we're rolling out as well. So this is really more focused on senior stakeholders, but making sure we're aligned at a strategic level. What are you trying to achieve over the next number of years? How can we support that? But also taking a lot of feedback from those customers as well in terms of them wanting to understand where KX is going strategically and making sure we're aligned on that journey. The last thing to highlight is the product advisory group. So yeah, Mark mentioned that input from customers is essential, but this is something relatively new that we've officially launched through our product team. And please reach out to us throughout the day if you're interested in joining this group. So we have a number of members already, but this is something that our product team is running on a regular basis. We have it across all of our product suite, so customers who are using those products, getting representatives from those customers to join a forum with us and to provide feedback and input on those products. So understanding what our roadmap is planning to deliver, getting input on that. Where can you see room for improvement with these products? What would you like to see us explore? All of that input is very important for us. So we're looking for customers to give us that guidance. So again, if you're interested in joining the product advisory group, please let us know, because that feedback is really critical for us. Okay, I think that's it from me, but thanks very much for your time. And like I said, the technical account management team are around today, so please reach out to us and we'd love to talk to you.